So a couple weeks ago I made a video talking about why the new Fable game could possibly suck. The topics ranged from internal issues such as budget and a new studio to possible gameplay problems like the open world. And for some reason, there were a few people unhappy with me daring to express concerns about a game series known for having consistent problems, even though I've stated a billion times that Fable is my all-time favorite game in franchise. But look, I've learned my lesson. I get that negativity only breeds more negativity, and as Fable fans we've suffered enough and shouldn't be so pessimistic. So today I've decided to be the most positive, fun-loving, tree-hugging, salad-eating, spirit-walking version of myself that I could be. So anyway, here is the absolute most positive Fable video I could come up with. 7 reasons why the new Fable game will be amazing. Nay, a masterpiece. Nay, the greatest RPG game of all time. How's that for clickbait? Number 1, Playground Games. Alright, so jokes aside, let's actually look at some positives to the game and why it could be incredible, as there are actually some things that look very promising. And one of them is Playground Games. Now I also put this on the other list as a reason to be worried. However, it's honestly a double-edged blade at this point because they could also do wonders. This team turned the spin-off series Forza Horizon, which was just meant to be something to hold the fan base over till the next motorsport release, into basically the main series. They've shown they know how to refine features like the vehicle mechanics and add new features like the seasonal changes. Whilst I understand the apprehension some fans may have with this studio, personally I do think they're quite talented, and this being something so drastically different to what they've done in the past could lead to something great. I mean, it could also be bad, but no, we're being positive today. Simon Carter, who was a co-creator of Fable, had this to say about Playground Games developing the new Fable game. I have slightly mixed feelings. On the one hand, it's great for the UK games industry and very pleasing that Fable isn't dead. Indeed, it will be lovely to play one as a punter without coming out in hives. On the other hand, it is a little curious to get rid of the team that is uniquely expert in making Fable and then try to make Fable. Fable is a weird game and a tough one to deconstruct for a new team. That said, the team in question is very talented and I'm sure they'll do a fantastic job. End quote. Not that it's worth much, but I agree with this. Handing the Fable reins over to a team like Playgrounds is exciting as it gives them a chance to really show us what they can do. Forza Horizon is what it is. There's not much you can do with it aside from maybe add a story, Need for Speed style, but with Fable the creative possibilities are endless. They could do so much, and even though there aren't any major ex-Lionhead developers working on it, I still believe this team will deliver on a good game. Number 2, a bigger focus on creatures and the lore. Now, whilst Fable's lore may not necessarily be as deep as something like the Elder Scrolls, it is still very interesting nonetheless and has a lot of ways to branch out in the latest installment. I'd personally love it if they touched more on the Old Kingdom, the Queen, Knights, Jack of Blades and the corruption. It's kind of strange to think of now, but all 3 Fable games actually had a very coherent storyline that led into each other. Starting with Jack of Blades in number 1, then the Spire in 2 and the Crawler in 3, if we ever got it, Fable 4 may very well have dealt with the corruption and took a hold of William Black. Now, I don't do lore videos. Frankly, they're too irritating for me. All the research that goes into them and the fear of missing something important or getting it wrong altogether is too much for my tiny brain to handle, but just this one time, I'll lore it up for you a bit. The corruption had its roots in Albion's ancient history as well as that of the first Archon and hero, William Black. The Queen, Knight and Jack of Blades came from a place called the Void and demanded that all men in Albion bow before them. When the people refused, they burned the world, then they flooded it and even twisted the minds of the people till brother slew brother, parents abandoned their children and friend killed friend. Finally, the people of Albion yielded and accepted the court. The few survivors and their descendants toiled for many years erecting structures and monuments to glorify the court. Desperate to end the reign of the court that established a stronghold on Albion, William Black, a man who was born with the abilities of the mind, entered the dimension known as the Void to claim the Sword of Aeons, the weapon of Jack of Blades that had the power to destroy the court. Whilst in the Void, the hero was afflicted with a terrible plague that began to waste his body away. Many years after William Black defeated the court and founded the Old Kingdom, he returned to the Void in an attempt to cast away the plague, fearing it would eventually rule Albion through him. This in turn formed the Corruption, the Darkness, and their leader, the Corruptor. If we ever got Fable 4, the Corruptor looked to be the next villain in store for us, and to finally see the accumulation of all 3 games would have been epic. But then it got cancelled. My point is, the lore is there, the story is there, all Playground Games needs to do is skim through it and find what fits them best. Not only that, but the inhabitants of the Fable universe are some of the best inhabitants in any game. If this new Fable game puts a heavy focus on the creatures, like the teaser trailer suggested, it could give The Witcher 3 a run for its money. It's not necessarily about the sheer amount of creatures they add, but how unique and interesting they are. Alright, I think I've fanboyed out enough, let's move on. Number 3, back to the combat basics. Whilst Fable 2 and 3 had a more seamless and streamlined combat system, there were many problems, the main two being guns and the lack of magic. Now I personally had no issues with the guns in Fables 2 and 3, I thought they were cool, and if they keep them, though I highly doubt it, I'm all for it. The only real problem was that the technology got too advanced and that stopped the total fantasy feel the first game established so well. As for magic, well, let me just put it like this. Fable The Lost Chapters still has one of the best magic systems I've ever played in any game. Not only were there a lot of spells, but the uniqueness of them and the way they upgraded was just so damn cool. To take it back to something like that would be great, and it looks like that's the way it's heading. Also, finally, we'll have armor back. Is it confirmed? No, but I bet my channel it's coming back. Not that it's worth much. Hey, so we're roughly halfway through the video and I just wanted to do a quick friendly reminder to smack that like button and consider subscribing if you're enjoying the video. Anyway, let's carry on. Number 4, a reboot. Kind of. The reason Fable 4 isn't called Fable 4 and rather just Fable, it's because it's a reboot. Not a try and true reboot, but more of a re-establishing, like God of War. There is no doubt in my mind that the current lore we have will remain intact. The thing that will change, however, is the direction Playground Games takes the game and the way the story is showcased to us. Fable 2 and 3 didn't require you to play the previous installments. However, if you did, you would have gotten a much better narrative outcome than somebody who didn't. Having Fable come back after 11 or 12 years means they'll need to somewhat start from scratch so new people can get into the games and the old fans who haven't played it for many years don't get confused. Now this could be seen as a negative, however I consider it a positive. To have everything that previously happened stay intact but also bring forth a new narrative with new lore and new ways for the story to branch out is exciting for all parts and is a great way to please the older fan base while still enticing new players. Number 5, Skyrim and The Witcher 3.
Oh, but RockyPunk, what does this have to do with Fable?
Alright, hold your horses, I'm getting to it. After you subscribe. What? Skyrim and The Witcher 3 are the 2 most successful RPG games since the last Fable game, and not just in terms of sales, but also in terms of the reactionary chain effect they left as a result of their superb quality. Memes were cemented over Skyrim, and the game is still being played now in 2021. As for The Witcher 3, it seems like almost every game tried to be The Witcher 3 after 2015. Look no further than the Assassin's Creed franchise as a proving grounds. Fable does not need to and should not copy Skyrim and The Witcher 3. That is not my point here. My point is there are features and principles from both games that almost every RPG game should take into account. The way Skyrim allows you to interact with the world and doesn't block you off from going anywhere, how it lets you make the character you want and has side quests that feel like mini main stories, how The Witcher 3 immerses you into its world, astounds you with its inhabitants and adds depth and detail only comparable to the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2. In my opinion, Fable is the second most undervalued RPG game of all time. Kingdoms of Amalur is number 1. The mechanics it brought into play were incredible, and not just for its time but even now. The renown and morality system, the ability to buy everything, marry anyone, wear anything, kill whoever you want, it was all fantastic, but somehow it never transcended into other games, probably due to it not reviewing or selling as well as Skyrim or The Witcher 3. But anyway, my whole convoluted point I'm trying to set up before making it is, if this new Fable game takes inspiration from those 2 games without blindly copying them and incorporates features that made them so great, that would most certainly create a recipe for great success. Number 6, Xbox is giving them freedom. The biggest criticism from Xbox fans was how they forced developers to make games they weren't too thrilled on making purely because it seemed profitable. Rare was forced to work on Kinect games and of course Fable The Journey and Legends, a Kinect and multiplayer only game designed to milk the Fable cash cow for all it was worth. Well, that doesn't look to be the case anymore. They finally let Rare off their leash and now they're upgrading Sea of Thieves all the time and are even working on a new game of their choice, Everwild. Although I'd love it if they brought back Viva Pinata. Anyway, Microsoft is hungry for big IPs and are fully invested in gaming with the purchase of Bethesda and many other studios prior. Playground Games upgraded to a 200+ employee studio to work on Fable. Aaron Greenberg, an Xbox executive, said that this is Playground Games' game to make and they have the freedom to do what they want with the IP, so at the very least this will be better than The Journey. I hope. And lastly, number 7, a modernized Fable. Even if this game turns out to be just more Fable and doesn't do anything too crazy to set itself apart from other RPGs, it's still going to be amazing because it has that charm that no other game has. Fable already had a lot of unique systems in play, and if it nails and refines them, you could see other games borrow from it. To finally see the morality system brought back, to see our character's appearance altered dependent on our deeds, our height and muscle mass change dependent on our skills, to run around the gorgeous vibrant world and then all of a sudden go through an area so dark and eerie it frightens us, to have the classic music back and walk through a town seeing how everyone reacts and talks to you. That is Fable, and to just have it back again, but brought into the modern era of RPGs, will be more than enough for me to consider it fantastic. Well, that'll do it for this video. I know I went super ultra fanboy mode, but hey, what you gonna do? I am who I am. Don't forget to drop a comment down below, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.